Welcome to the Deconstructing Data live stream and podcast. I'm Jessie Lezak, fractional CMO at BDEX, along with David Finkelstein, BDEX's founder and CEO. Good to see you, David. What's new?
Good to see you. I don't know, it's been a pretty busy week, and I know people are trying to cram a lot of things in this week because of the ad tech world will be at the Possible conference next week. So I don't know, it's been busy. How about you?
Yeah, it's been busy too. Just working on the BDEX migration. We won't go into too much details on, but what's keeping us busy over here, and just all the fun stuff. I mean, we've got some great clips coming out from some of our past episodes, and we get really great moments on these shows of guests who say profound things. But also, what always gets me are the patterns we hear. Often we hear some of these experts that we bring in on data saying the same things over and over again. So yeah, that's what we're up to. But we've got a really great guest that I'm looking forward to bringing in. Today on Deconstructing Data, we are thrilled to welcome Mike Ford, CEO of Skydeo, on Deconstructing Data. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Jesse. Hey, David. How you doing?
Doing well, Mike. We appreciate you joining us today on the show, and appreciate you sharing that video pre-show, your little promo video about your appearance at Possible next week. Very cool. But for our listeners and viewers today, I would love for you to sort of kick this off. Give us a little bit of your background. Tell us about yourself and what led you to found Skydeo.
Yeah, sure. Well, thanks for having me. I'm the founder and CEO of Skydeo. I guess we're still a startup, but kind of entering growth mode. We're in year 10 in July. So we got started with Skydeo based on really some really cool mobile data signals that we saw in the market. We called it App Graph, just understanding what apps people used and really locking in on mobile data first. The market was very PII based, very cookie based, and we started mobile first. We also started cloud first, which has helped us grow very quickly. And it's just a great platform and data signal to rely on to help marketers find their next customers in a cost-effective way. And so that's kind of how we kind of morphed into what we are today. Today, Skydeo is one of the largest audience data providers in the market for programmatic, paid social, and CTV. About 30,000 segments across auto, travel, CPG, and a large B2B data set as well to help marketers on that side of the business. We activate in all the normal channels, DSPs and Facebook, TikTok, and obviously the TV platforms now. I guess our strong points are just being, high choice of selection, having a segment that's right for your clients, very competitive on price and super scalable segments that you have like a great choice of IDs. And then we wrap a lot of insights around it. And we have a platform called SAM, which is our Skydeo audience marketplace that helps brands connect with the right segments very quickly around their clients. And so that's kind of Skydeo in a nutshell today in 2025.
Awesome. Sounds very topical as far as what we see in ad tech today. The need for more targeted audiences. And what's really interesting and jumping into sort of our first topic is one of the things you wanted to talk about is AI and tech and personalizing customer experiences. So a lot of that comes down to creating very targeted audiences. Would love to hear your take on this, where you see personalizing customer experiences going in 2025.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think, my experience, I was pretty dubious on the AI side, going back a couple of years because of the hype cycle around AI. A lot of the startups that were coming out were like, we're going to replace targeting. We're going to replace this. And the first thing they did was come to us for the user data to train their models, which we politely declined, and we'll just wait for the AI tools to use them ourselves, which we've done. And so I think what you're seeing now, what I'm excited about this year, is the agentic AI is connecting different systems together and having AI do the work for you. And whether that's pushing data, internally or processing data, it's really more of an efficiency play than anything else. And so that's pretty exciting. There's companies that are doing kind of agent marketplaces that you can pick and click and put them together. Agent Man is one of them, is a colleague of mine that is running that one. So those are all interesting tools. I was at the Ascendant Network conference last week in New York. and they had, they were using it for, creative and just stitching, making 50 creatives and presenting that to a client in a week instead of 6 to 8 months. And so all of these AI tools around creation and operations and efficiency are pretty exciting. In regards to targeting, predictive audiences are, the top brands are using predictive audiences to target their next customers. And whether that involves real-time signals or purchase data, or, the retail media networks and retailers sharing data with the brands, and certainly the clean rooms around it, finding the signal through the noise and being able to target that is where, high precision data is coming in. And it's not just age and gender stuff. It's, it's every single that you can imagine. And so what we've done is attached as many deterministic attributes to an idea as possible to allow the AI and models to, really find that signal. The part where it gets difficult is, especially with large language models, there's not a lot of, the descriptions run out at some point or aren't accurate enough to kind of create these large language model audiences. And so that really hasn't worked. So there's still a combination of AI plus user data that I think is valuable to the market. And I think that's what's performing best today. So that's kind of like predictive personalization, I would say, as a, how do you make that happen? Some of the things that we're doing is we're using our own data sets to make a predictive audience for a brand or agency without even, we're just doing it in advance of having a relationship with that company. So if you're McDonald's or American Express or Home Depot, we're making an audience for you and your agency, and all you have to do is target it, and it's already sitting there waiting for you on the shelf. And so that'll be rolling out this year for us. So that's pretty interesting. And so I guess what it gets down to is you have your first party data that people all want to activate or do lookalike models off of, but it's not. You need a lot more, and like that's where the RMNs come in, the retail media networks, and third party data providers like us.
So we've got some commenters. I recognize one name. We've got Andrew Paul. So he's 30 under 30. I know they do a lot of targeting actually on TikTok. They have an app basically that helps med school students with their MCATs, basically studying for the MCATs, like a community. So I know that they've gotten a lot of business from TikTok. I just know that because I know AP. And so one of the questions he has in the chat is, what are customers expecting from businesses in 2025 because of AI?
What are customers expecting of businesses? So I would assume this is a consumer's, what you expect. Well, I mean, I think you want to be able, I think what the stakes of Chat GPT is, you want to be able to type in like 3 words and pretend that you gave someone an essay and get a whole like summary back of what you intended to mean instead of what you just typed in with 3 words. I went to the doctor last week, and they gave me the lab results, and I kind of listened to the guy, but I forgot what he said, and so I stuck it into Chat GPT, and I got a much better summary than what I got from the doctor, to tell the truth. And so I think that's the table stakes for businesses this year. It's part customer service, but it's also being an expert at understanding what your customers are saying and what they want from the conversation that they're trying to have, or what they're trying to accomplish, whether it's customer service or a sales issue or billing, right? So I think that's like step one of leveraging AI in kind of every aspect.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that customers expect that brands will better understand their needs, for one, and be able to respond to their needs easier, in a more easier manner, in a quick manner, efficiently, I should say. I think that from a ad tech perspective, I think customers are expecting brands to, this is the crazy thing, right? Because we've gone through all these different iterations of privacy regulations, and you don't track me and all this other stuff. But on the other side, customers expect brands to be able to target them and to reach them, and know how to reach them, which is kind of like contradictory, right? But I think that with AI and with a lot of the tools that are being built, brands are getting better and better at communicating their capabilities with the end users, with their consumers. I think that going forward, there's going to be a lot of new tech that will come out on the ad tech side. And that's not just about building audiences, but it's about modeling your targeting. And so that basically means you have to have that feedback loop, and you have to be able to see not only who you're, build an audience of people that you want to target, but also track them, have a pixel on your website, track who of that audience is coming back, and use that as part of your feedback loop so that you can continue to hone in on that audience that is most effectively engaging with your brand.
Great answers for AP there. He did plug in a few other things along with a few others. So just real quick, Lauren mentioned she loved that you turned down the AI companies and waited. So she mentioned that earlier when you were talking a little bit. And then also AP says that's an impressive use case, being able to produce 60 to 80 creatives in a fraction of time. Definitely am curious on various AI use cases for creation, production, for audience, market research, and operations. And then him and Lauren are going back a little back and forth. He did clarify he helps pre-meds study and pass the MCAT. But yeah, I mean, oh, here we go. One final, I saw you mentioned targeting. So he says, no one likes ads, but hyper targeting is something else. Being able to better target while respecting privacy will be helpful so as not to burn so much on the paid ads. So keep the questions coming. You are being seen. We do see them. And if anyone else has anything, and also just let us know where you're tuning in from, if you're listening, and what industry you're listening in on, so we can continue to make the conversation relevant for you. But anything more on AI and tech before we transition into travel trends?
Well, I just pulled up I took a picture of the conference. People put up their PowerPoint. So the presentation was from Traction. You guys can look it up at the Ascendant Network. And so he did human-directed Gen AI. And so, David, you had asked earlier which tools people use. Well, he was using Claude to 11 Labs to Midjourney. And then that went to Kling AI, Luma AI, and Runway. And then that went to Topaz Labs, and they put it into After Effects and another tool, PR, to finish that off. So I can share that graphic if you want later. Here it is. That's from Traction, who ran that. So that's how they produced all those creatives at a fraction of the cost and less time. I haven't tested any of those things. Don't know if it works, but it worked for them. So,
yep.
Use it as you will. No warranty here.
Nice.
And then the AI discussion, a lot of these guys were venture backed and may or may not have money, so it wasn't that difficult a decision to make. So, giving them data to train their models. So.
Yeah, it's a different story.
Yeah.
But you have some knowledge on travel trends. And so this is interesting. So could you kick us off on Travel Trends 2025, AI and digital influence?
Yeah. So, we see a lot of, because of our location data sets, we see a lot of travelers where they're going in terms of airline visits, airport visits, hotel visits. We launched a service called Hotel Graph, which basically gives you a snapshot of like where people like to stay. A lot of people are using the OTAs like Hotel Tonight or Hotels.com, and they're just picking the cheapest places. But you get people who are super loyal to Marriott or Hilton or Hyatt, and they may be in the loyalty program, but maybe they can't always get those, so they bounce around. And so we've assembled some of those tools to help the travel companies, find the best customers for them. Part of the AI things that we see working with, these large travel companies like an American Express or, the companies that want to book travel, Kayak, all these folks, with their, they use credit and fraud models the same way that they look at marketing. And so it goes back to like how many unique attributes that are deterministic to an ID that you can populate into a model that can find the signal and create a high performance audience out of. And so for travel, if you think of the Sphere in Las Vegas, got to see people who are interested in either the content that's going to be there. It's U2 or the Grateful Dead or Dead and Company, whatever it's called, or this, environmental show that they run every day. And then people have to be in Vegas to want to go there. So if you think of the Boolean logic of an audience, it's and so how do you find those people who are in Vegas and may be interested in that, or who are fans of the Dead and Company and will travel to Vegas to go to the show so they can sell tickets? So these are all kind of issues that, having a predictive audience combined with a model that works for AI that could plug into that. So that's kind of what we're seeing. I'd love to hear what you guys see, or if you have questions around just travel in general.
It's interesting. I mean, we don't track specific industries. That's really interesting, though. It's definitely something that we had, came across in the past, because we used to use a lot of location data. We don't use any location data anymore, mainly because there were too many privacy issues around it, and we just kind of abandoned it. But I recall doing some similar studies in the past for some of our clients as well. Clients that wanted to identify where people were traveling to, and what times of the years and what kind of events they might have been attending and things like that. Now I think that a lot of that, one of the sort of difficulties that people, when they come to us and ask about that, is like, when we do so much modeling of audiences, like that's a really difficult one to model. As far as modeling when people might travel or where they might travel. So it's not something that we see that often, but that's super interesting that you're able to sort of.
Well, some of it's location data, David, and then a lot of it's you can see when people bought an airline ticket, right? You can get purchase data from it, and so having a real-time feed to purchase data, or even interest data for travel on a weekly basis or monthly basis is a good prediction that person is going to travel. Maybe I'm traveling today, or a lot of people plan way out in advance. It's 2 or 3 month window, and you get to target them for that long and kind of get a conversion. And some people, like me, just book one-way flights for the next day, right? So so I think those are the, you can find surrogates for location data in other data sets like purchase data. And so those we find interesting, and combining those is pretty interesting too.
Most of the stuff that we've done in the travel space, at least that we do now, is more around, their, the frequency that they travel, for example. Like we could see stuff like that. And so we'll build audiences of people that are frequent travelers. That's sort of more our speed from a modeling perspective, so looking at the specifics of the fact that they just purchased a ticket or something like that and will be traveling soon. But that's pretty cool that you're able to do that at that scale, that level.
Well, I think that's for the performance marketers, and given the economic climate, people turn into performance marketers pretty quickly. For the brand folks, they look at travel signals, especially international travel, more as an affluence metric, I think. And think of the kind of Rob Report readers or Town and Country, like the old magazines that were out there. Those type of travelers, whether they're Black Card or Platinum Card holders. People who are in the travel clubs, I think those, the brands want to, attract those. And certainly the partnerships you see across the airlines and hotels, still apply to that.
Cool. Yeah, it makes sense.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for sharing all of that knowledge on travel. I knew that was going to be interesting. Anything else either of you want to add on this topic before we transition away, or anyone in the comments have any questions on travel trends 2025? If not, I'll transition us into our third topic, the Ozempic effect, changing dining trends in 2025. So could you explain what this topic is talking about, Mike?
Well, everybody's trying to lose weight all the time. So what we have a combination of, people who are interested in, tirzepatide, Mounjaro, GLP-1 drugs, plus the CPG data, what they're buying in the grocery stores. And so what we saw from the purchase data of CPG was smaller portion sizes in, being bought in the grocery stores. And so, whether they're buying like 2 pounds of chicken, it was like 1.5 pounds, or, just the general shopping cart size is shrinking. If I was DoorDash or Instacart, they may see this data also. So we're getting it, through our partners, but they probably have a live feed of this. And so, looking at the data and the insights, it made sense that from a dining perspective and just kind of, surveying, the people that we knew, on those drugs, like what are they buying at dinner? So people are sharing entrees, right? Or they're looking for something smaller, or they don't want to have to take home food. And most of the restaurants over the last 5-10 years, maybe 20, have scaled up into these massive size portions, appetizers, salads, and entrees. With, the Ozempic diet, you can't eat a third of that. And so basically what we did is just made a prediction on the CPG grocery store data applying to restaurants, and how it would impact them. And it's, from what we've seen, it's starting to, you're starting to see that on menus, just like gluten-free and heart healthy menu choices came out there. There's portion reduction sizes coming out at a lot of restaurants. And so, whether it's the snack category going away and some of these, the bigger CPG companies, or just smarter choices by restaurants, I think that's the trend that we predicted and are now seeing. So,
yeah. How about I try to find a way to challenge that theory and say, is it because of weight loss drugs, or is it because of increased prices?
Good question.
Well, they have less.
I don't know. I mean, how do we figure that out?
Money to spend on food if they have to buy the drug, right? If they're not getting it for free from their insurance company. People are spending, $500, $1,000 a month to lose weight, and so it makes it. Once you make that level of commitment, it's like if you get a gym membership, are you going to go? Well, if you spend on a trainer, you're probably going to go because you had an appointment and it's $100. And so if they're spending $500 or $1,000 a month, yeah, they probably don't want to get the tomahawk steak and leave half of it there. So a lot of this could be anecdotal, but I think it's the number of people on the drugs and the number of people impacted by this and the businesses impacted. It's definitely a major consumer change that we have not seen in our lifetime, and it's interesting to watch.
I see these weight loss drugs advertised on TV like a ton. I don't know anything about them. I'm curious. Do you have any statistics on that? Like, how many people are on these things? I mean, does it really cost $500 a month?
Yeah, I think if you are not on the plan, if you're not like pre-diabetic and can't get it approved through your insurance, you can buy it. You can get it as a fashion drug to take and lose weight, is my understanding. I had a friend on it who lost his taste for red wine. Couldn't drink, so he just drank vodka and tequila, and I was like, that sounds horrible, so I stayed away.
Vodka's a clean way to drink alcohol. It's less sugar than wine.
I want to support France and Italy and Napa Valley, so I'm not gonna do that. I don't have the stats on like how many people take it or anything like that. Our interest was really from an audience perspective, and started talking to some of the restaurant magazines and dining magazines, like what the impact was, and so it was pretty straight line curve on smaller portion sizes for those types of people on those drugs.
I pulled us way off topic. I'm sorry.
I mean, it's interesting to talk about, and I think that finding this niche or the next niche. So one of the things that we're seeing is a lot of startup companies buying audience data to find fat people. So I'm sorry to say fat people, but whatever they are, overweight. And, so it's like, how do you create an audience of that? And so finding people who are overweight or identified overweight or have, visited pages, and then kind of dissecting that to find out, maybe they drive trucks and SUVs as a better audience to target than, Prius drivers, right? Or suppressing people who are going to the gym. I don't know. So those are some of the things that there's any from, they may be lead gen companies for pharma, or they may, be direct. A lot of fitness companies and gyms are actually selling these drugs too. So we've seen an uptick in just requests for those types of audiences to target people who may be likely GLP-1, buyers, because it's 6 to 12 grand a year, I guess, of conversion. So.
Wow. It makes me think of, I'm a TikTok seller, so brands will send me samples and then I make a video of it. And one brand targeted me so well. I was like, how did they know? And the pill they were selling is some vitamin that's called Height Increase. How did they know I'm only 5'2"? And they're sending me this. So I'm like, it kind of makes me think of like, how do they know how to target? It's funny that you mentioned they had to think around like gyms or other ways to think about that, because this was just on my mind since I had been targeted by being short, apparently. So somehow someone thought of something else that I must do, that since I'm short, I must have bought maybe a step stool or something.
Wait, they're trying to sell you a vitamin that's going to make you taller?
No, they want me to sell it. They want me. They targeted me to be an influencer for it. Which on TikTok you can do at mass scale. You can target different people with certain audiences and certain things to like give samples to. So anyway, I digress. We did get one more comment from AP that looks interesting. So he says, chicken or egg? Which variables are stronger here? And does it depend on demographics? I can't remember when he said this. I think it was earlier when we were talking on something else. So I don't know if either of you can recall on that, or AP, if you have any more thoughts on that, plug it in if you're still listening. But it's 4:44 and we're still on the Ozempic topic. Is there any more on the Ozempic effect that you want to get in?
I think what AP brings up is interesting. I think he's probably talking about causation or correlation. We don't know the causation. We all we see is the correlated data. So that's a good point that he made. We see what's happened, and we make logical predictions based on intelligence and models to predict what may happen and who may be a better target for something. I think if that's what he's referring to. So we don't know what's on the drug thing, Ozempic. If you take the drug, you can't eat as much. Your appetite decreases, so you're going to buy smaller food items, so you don't waste money on that. Is the causation of that effect. So I hope that answers the question.
That was a good answer. Thank you for that.
All right.
How about you, David? This has been a fun topic. Any more on Ozempic or random targeting based on body height or size?
No, but I mean, what's interesting is like, we've been doing it for years, just building very, targeted niche audiences for our clients. And so, like, as an example, when Mike was describing before, it's like, if I was going to target an audience of people that I thought were overweight, like, we would try to figure out, like, what does that mean? That might be people that, visit a lot of fast food chains and eat, products from these CPGs, and don't go to the gym. Like, you create sort of this sort of formula between a whole bunch of different audiences and try to pinpoint it. And so there's, to your point, Mike, with 30,000 segments in your library, and God knows how many are out there, amongst the ether, like, you can easily sort of get an idea of who your ideal customers that you're trying to reach, and sort of build your very targeted custom audience that way as well.
Yeah. I think for the retail, I just thinking this out loud, is like the retail media networks could sell anybody buying an XL or XXL, right?
Oh yeah.
I don't think most of them don't think that way, because like there's always a shirt for that, on every size. But going the other way, like, okay, if they're buying large sizes, they probably want to shrink.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. it's fun to solve the problems on a marketing challenge. So.
Absolutely, I would agree with that. And speaking of solving problems, let's get into our final topic, which we ask all of the guests who come on Deconstructing Data, which is, what are some of your favorite tools in your tech stack that I guess help you and your team solve problems?
Oh boy, I got to talk for a while on this one. I think so. Early in Skydeo's evolution, we ran out of money a couple times, and so I became the data engineer for a while. Fortunately, I'm not touching the data as much anymore, but probably the best tool. We switched from Amazon and Snowflake to Google Cloud, and then part of that was a tool called by Trifacta called Data Prep, and I think there's some tools similar to it, but Data Prep was just very simple: drag and drop, connect your data sets, ingest. They'd show you the data at a glance. You could dedupe it, change column names, do all this stuff, and really transform the data with, as a business logic, not having to know SQL, not having to know anything. And it would do it all for you and push it into BigQuery or Google Cloud. And so that's probably like one of the easiest business tech tools to use for transforming data. I guess I'd have to go back to my second one would be Looker that Google bought, but we were an early Looker customer in 2015. It basically was a core foundational element of the company. We found a Looker consultant that was local to us, and he gave us the ability to type in an app and show the over-indexing apps for that user, for that group of users. And it provided, just an incredible insights platform for us to create audiences that we still use today on a segment basis. And Looker is basically connected to the data warehouse and lets business users know SQL. And from that perspective, at that time of Skydeo, we definitely needed that. We were, primarily business guys trying to launch a data company. What I use today, I like Clearbit that HubSpot bought. That shows you like who came to your website on a company level. And then I use a tool called RB2B, which tells me who came to my website, like the person's name, and shows me their LinkedIn. And I get like a list of those. And, we auto connect to people if they're a prospect and fit our target list. I'm kind of partial to Skydeo Audience Manager, incredible technology that we built. In terms of AI type tools, I just used one to do headshots. You load in real photos and it changes your outfit in the background. It does a little too much filtering, I think. It looks like, like I'm on a dating app, but it was pretty good. And I forget the name of it. I could pull it up, but ChatGPT, obviously. Jasper's pretty good. If you guys have used that, they were kind of early in the AI scheme of things for marketing and like doing a blog post, doing a social media post, and putting topics in and letting you produce things. We use that. We made 100 TikTok videos in 3 days using kind of Jasper for the creative ideas around different audiences and things. And then we shot the videos. It helped us do the scripting and was pretty powerful. And then we used a tool called Descript to do the editing down to the word and do the captioning as well. So that's about 10 tools. How many did I mention? I use a lot of stuff. So I guess my secret power is using software to learn people's jobs. And so if you don't have a product, if you're a startup, you don't have a product manager, go use Aha or I guess ClickUp or, one of these, tools and click every button and find out what it does. If you don't have a CFO, go learn QuickBooks and just press every button and find out what it does. And it could save you headcount for a little while. So that's, I could talk all day about different software, but those are the top ones I think are valuable.
Those are some good ones.
Yeah, there's a tool called Julius AI. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's a really cool data analysis AI, where it's basically you can feed it a bunch, feed it a file, and then you can just talk to it and ask it questions just like you would ask, anybody, and you can tell it to, manipulate the data do any sort of analysis on the data. You can ask it questions and then just be like, oh, okay, well, tell me how many, records, whatever have this, and it'll spit out a chart and it'll come back to you with a, oh, X% had that and 6% had that and 10% had that. And you could just sort of have a conversation with it, like you're talking to a person about the data, and it'll just produce it and manipulate it and do all kinds of cool stuff.
We get charged per scanned data set, so it sounds like a tool to ring up my Google charges, but
yeah, it's more like
10 terabytes scan. That seems pretty scary.
Yeah, it's more like you're not going to want to do it to a massive data set, but if somebody were to give you a data file and you just wanted to get some quick stats on it, like you could ask it just like it was the data engineer that built the file.
Great.
And then you can tell it to manipulate the file and things like that. So if you by example, you can take an audience and you can just take a sample of it, and then now if you take a 10% sample of it and you ask the questions, you're going to know percentage-wise it's probably going to be about that across the whole file. So you can do some pretty neat stuff with it.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Interesting. That was what, Julius AI?
Julius AI, yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty neat.
Cool. So many new tools.
Yeah, so there's a guy named Jeffrey Busgang. He's an adjunct professor at Harvard. He's got a post on LinkedIn that just put up a big list of the fastest growing AI companies, as well as the tiny teams. And so that's where I found a bunch of AI tools that I thought were pretty useful. If you guys want to look that one up. He's a VC startup guy in Boston, now professor.
Cool.
Thanks for sharing. Well, in closing, Mike, would you like to let listeners know where they could find you?
Nah. So if you're a brand or agency or platform, sam.skydeo.com. It's Skydeo Audience Marketplace, sam.skydeo.com. It's our self-service tool to find audiences and activate and get insights. That's pretty easy. If you want to set up a meeting with us, cat@skydeo.com is the email address. And we'll get you scheduled and be able to have a chat like this for your own marketing goals and clients. And so, but you can find us on skydeo.com, and we're on all the social channels too. But I appreciate the time today, guys. It was fun.
Yeah, absolutely, Mike. It's been great having you on the show. This was a fun conversation for sure. And I'll let Jesse wrap it up for us.
And I will do just that. I just put the QR code on the screen for those who are watching on video. Otherwise, if you are on podcast, just head over to beatx.com and click on the Talk to an Expert button so that you can get powered by BeatX. So just imagine, taking the power of AI to build and craft your audiences and actually truly resonate with your brand. The audience should truly resonate with your brand. And you can use AI. I mean, as a marketer myself, I know product market fit, finding the right audience is often the largest pain point. Well, that's where BeatX can help. They can learn from the data and they can go help you find more people like your best customers. And we want to bring you closer to all your goals. They're doing more than just that. So bring your data over onto BeatX. You can use that QR code or just go to beatx.com and talk to an expert so we can help you with your data issues. So for those who are curious about deconstructing data, David, I know you were mentioning earlier something about the Tuesday slot. Did you want to mention anything about that just yet?
Yeah, I mean, look, we're fully booked up through the end of the year now. So we get a lot of requests. People want to come on the show. So we've started to do a Tuesday slot as well. The Tuesday slot is actually a paid promotional slot. Jesse has some documentation we can send people that has a little more information about the additional promotional opportunities you get for doing those Tuesday slots, which are paid opportunities. Gets you a little more promotional exposure as well to our audience. So talk to Jesse, contact us at info@beatx.com if you want to learn more about it.
Absolutely. And if you or anyone else would be interested in that, or if you just have feedback on the show, and or suggested guests, any information, just send your qualitative data to us at info@bdex.com. We want to continue to make Deconstructing Data a great show for you. And until next week, we hope you all have a great weekend. And Mike, thanks again for coming on Deconstructing Data.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it. It's fun.
All right. Take care. Thank you.
Bye-bye.